What's up everybody and welcome back. I know it's been a while since I made a video, but I felt compelled to come back to video making with RuneScape 3 Leagues finally getting a release date. Leagues is launching Monday, September 15th and ending Monday, November 10th. If you don't know what Leagues is, it's a limited time game mode focused around completing tasks which earn you points, then at certain point thresholds you unlock relics which provide insane game-changing effects, alongside unlocking massive XP and drop rate multipliers. Tasks can range anywhere from killing a goblin, chopping 50 willow logs, all the way to completing collection logs at the game's hardest bosses. So at the time of recording, we don't know the exact format of this league, and I don't really want to spend time speculating because we really have no hints, and Jagex will be releasing more info on the league soon. With all that being said, we do have 3 relics to talk about, including their effects, and we also have another set of 3 relics that we can speculate about because we just do not know their effects at this time. First, we have the Banker's Note relic, which is very familiar if you've played in the OSRS leagues. This relic will give you an item that lets you access your bank from anywhere, and this item can also be used to both note and unnote any items. So if you're from the OSRS league, then you know that this relic is widely considered to be one of the best, if not the best relics of all time. But it's important to know that in RS3, the game design is in a way where you don't really utilize trips in the same way that you do in Old School. For example, in Old School, if you go to Dagannoth Kings, you're going to want to stretch your inventory as long as possible, because getting back to Dagannoth Kings is really annoying. But at RuneScape 3, that's not how things work. In RuneScape 3, we have what's called the War's Retreat, which is basically the PVM hub. And here you can restore your prayer, change your spellbook, change your prayers, access the bank, reset all your cooldowns, fill your adrenaline. And this place also has portals that teleport you directly to bosses that you have 1 KC at. So you just have to make the Dagannoth King run once, or wait till you get a Reaper task and you have the Reaper task portal teleport you there directly. And once you have access to that, you can return to Dagannoth Kings in less than 30 seconds. You go in, get the kills, pick up the loot, teleport, reset, and do it again. So because of that, Banker's Note really isn't going to be as powerful as you might think it will be if you've played the old school leagues. If we don't really know the format, so maybe War's Retreat won't be available in the league. So in that case, it would be really powerful, and using it for skilling is not really going to be as important in RuneScape 3 because we have what's called porters, which are basically an item that will automatically teleport all your resources that you're gathering to the bank, and they are relatively easy to come by once you make it, past the first few weeks on your account, and because this is leagues, everything's going to be super accelerated. Now again, we don't know the format, so maybe if we're region locked and we don't have access to incandescent energy, then maybe this relic will be a bit better. Another important note on Banker's Relic if you're coming from the old school is that in RuneScape 3 you cannot skill while moving. If you try and fletch or enchant bolts or anything like that while running, it will not work. Your character will get stalled and stand in place. So it's also important to note that Banker's Note cannot be used to multi-zero time skill like it could in the old school leagues. Also, RuneScape 3 doesn't have any long gauntlet endurance-based challenges like the Inferno does, like Old School does with the Inferno or the Colosseum. RuneScape 3 does have Zuck, but it only takes you about 16 to 18 minutes, maybe a little longer if it's your first time doing it, and there's checkpoints, and it's not really a massive endurance test where you're, trying to make every single brew and every single super restore last as long as possible. There isn't really anything like that in RuneScape 3, so that is another aspect in where the Banker's Note is not going to be as useful and as appealing as it is in Old School. Not to absolutely shit on this relic, but I'm just afraid that people are going to know the Banker's Note relic from the Old School leagues and immediately jump to it, when it might be worth holding off and thinking, wait a minute, is this really that powerful in RuneScape 3? I mean, there really isn't anything that I can think of, at least off the top of my head, where having Banker's Note would dramatically change the way I play RuneScape 3 in the same way it dramatically changes the way you play Old School. Okay, next we have the Farming Frenzy relic. This is going to automatically apply Ultra Compost to everything you plant, and everything you plant will automatically insta-grow. You also have a chance to receive extra produce and refund your seeds. In RS3, you can plant multiple herb seeds at once for diminishing returns. So on Ironman, usually you don't do this unless it's something you have a lot of seeds of. But with this relic, you can actually plant the max amount of seeds, which is 10, but it'll only consume 1 seed. So that is going to be crazy good. And it's also important to know that this relic doesn't have anything to do with the player-owned farms. And my theory on that is that in previous leagues, when you reach certain relic tiers, you unlock passive benefits. like increased minigame XP, increased Slayer points, stuff like that. So I think in this league, at certain relic tiers, you're going to unlock bonuses to time-gated content, like player-owned farm animals, archaeology research, player-owned ports, stuff like that. Either that, or there's going to be a complete other relic that focuses purely on the time-gated content. Now, if you're an old-school player, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds really nice, but surely, RuneScape, you're really powerful, you have a lot of AoE, surely you can just get all your herbs directly as loose items from bosses or from Slayer monsters. Well, that's not the case. In RuneScape 3, they recently, I guess not recently, it was a while ago now, but they removed all of the herbs off of the boss drop tables. Bosses now exclusively drop herb seeds, so if you want herbs, you have to actually do your farm runs. Now, there are still some like miscellaneous monsters and Slayer monsters that drop loose herbs, but none of them really drop enough to sustain you, even for a limited time game mode like the League. Okay, now on to the third relic. We have the Golden Footed Relic. This will provide agility XP every 10 ticks when you are moving, very similar to the Sage's Greaves we've had in previous old school leagues. This relic also makes us you cannot fail any agility obstacles, and you also produce coins whenever you complete an agility lap course. Now, I'm going to be honest here, this relic seems completely useless. I know that training agility sucks and nobody likes training it, but with the League XP increase, I think agility training will be decently fast. The Aniakaroni course gives great XP at multiple level brackets. Depending on if, things are area locked, we'll have access to, the Wilderness Agility course, which gives great XP. The Priff Agility course, I'm sure we'll still have access to lots of loose experience lamps through the fort, and through quest rewards and daily challenges and all sorts of stuff. So agility is not going to be an issue. And if you're thinking about, well, not failing obstacles, that sounds really nice. Maybe in this league we're going to have to do a lot of quests, Mornings in Part 2, stuff like that, although I highly doubt that. But if we have to, you might think, okay, well, not failing agility obstacles, that sounds nice. If auras are enabled in this league, we don't know yet if auras will be disabled or enabled, but there is an agility aura that makes it so you do not fail any agility obstacles, and it does work for almost every quest. There's a couple of outlier quests where it doesn't work, but again, I think there will be very few quests available to do in the league, just because they're going to follow the old school RuneScape format as much as they can. And in old school leagues, you do maybe at most 10 quests, probably even less, depending on your regions. So again, I think this relic is going to be basically completely useless, unless everything else in its relic tier is absolute garbage. Okay, now that we have talked about the 3 known relics, let's talk about the other 3 relics you see in these trailer. These relics don't have any Dragonkin text to translate, so we have no idea what the effects are. So I'm going to speculate on these relics, and I have like 1 or 2 theories for each one of these relics and about what their effects could possibly be. So first, let's talk about this relic here. It kind of looks like to me a crosshair, so my first idea for this relic is that it's going to be the ranged combat style relic. If you don't know what I mean by that, let's go ahead and put the Archer's Embrace relic on screen from the Trailblazer Reloaded League. Now, in old school RuneScape leagues, combat is designed to run players picking like one combat style as their main style and mainly using that style almost everywhere. Even in places that, like, normally you can't use it in the main game or you think it wouldn't work at all, in the leagues you pretty much can't camp one style for almost everything. Now, because RuneScape 3 is already a game where you can pretty much just camp one style at pretty much all the content except for like Dagonoth Kings and stuff like that. There's only a couple bosses that are true immune to certain style damage. So, like for example, in RuneScape 3, right, I'm playing a style locked account. I can only use magic. I've killed almost every single boss. I almost have the Reaper crew on that account. It's not a problem. So because of that, I'm not sure if RuneScape 3 is going to do, these combat style specific relics, since the game is basically already all about being just using one combat style. There is hybriding in RuneScape 3, but it is a very, very, very top-end thing. Very few players actually do it because it's kind of annoying to do and hard, but it is very rewarding. You do a lot of extra damage. So who knows how these relics are going to work. But, so if they're not going to go for style-specific relics, I think this relic is going to be like an accuracy-focused one. Like maybe it gives you 100% accuracy at all times, regardless of your gear, which would be very powerful for like the early and mid-game. But once you get into like the later stage of the game where you have access to overloads in tier 90 accuracy weapons and like ancient curses, you almost always have 100% accuracy, or at least close to 100% accuracy at most encounters in the game. So this would make this, if that's the only effect on the relic, it'd be kind of bad. So maybe there'll be like a secondary effect, like maybe your minimum hit is higher, or perhaps some sort of chance, increase to crit chance, something like that. Okay, on to the next relic here. So when I first saw this, I thought it was like obviously a blood rune or water rune. But now that I've looked at it more, to me this looks like the needle, which is like this god relic artifact thing in RuneScape lore that is like all about time travel. And it's also associated with magic because Karapak uses the needle and Karapak drops a bunch of really powerful magic gear. So this could either be the mage relic, or I think what is more likely, this is going to be a relic themed around the needle, which is like all about time travel. So this is probably going to be like either a cooldown based relic, or maybe this relic just puts an item in your inventory that lets you use the time warp mechanic from the Karapak boss fight, which basically creates a snapshot of your character, your position, your health, your cooldowns, your adrenaline, your prayer, everything. And then after 10 seconds, the game will revert you back to that snapshot. So basically you can press time warp, spend all of your adrenaline, all your cooldowns on big powerful abilities. 10 seconds are up, you snap back, and guess what? All your cooldowns are back, all of your adrenaline is back. This would make it kind of like the Total Recall relic from the Echo League last year. So that would make this relic extremely powerful. That is a very powerful effect, obviously, especially if you're going to be using Necromancy, because the Necromancy is insanely powerful to Karapak fight because of the ability called Living Death. With Time Warp, you can basically stay in Living Death forever the way the ability works. You know, if you know the game, you know the game. So yeah, this will be a very powerful relic if that is how it works. Okay, so here we have the last relic, and to me this obviously looks like the Zuck helmet. So I'm thinking this is going to be like a melee relic, or perhaps a pure like glass cannon damaged relic, or maybe you do increase damage and take more damage, or your damage goes up the lower your health is, or maybe, you know, because Zuck is associated with the Zuck sword, which is a very powerful, very, you know, unique and cool special attack weapon, maybe this relic will be special attack focused. But you know, we really don't know. There isn't much to go off on any of these relics. But yeah, this is probably going to be like a damaged focused one, or maybe like a burn focused one. Alright, that's all the info I have today. If you guys have any theories for these three Mystery relics, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Go ahead and let me know what you're excited for the league, what your goals are for the league, kind of what you want to do. And I'll try to make as many leagues videos as I can leading up to the league, theory crafting, breaking the relics down, kind of ranking them, you know, which ones are going to be good, especially if, you know, you're not familiar with RuneScape 3, maybe these relics on paper sound really good, but then with the way RuneScape 3 works, actually are not that powerful. You know, we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier in the video. But yeah, I'm going to try and make videos when they release new information, talk about the relics, just discuss the format, theory, craft, come up with strategies, and I think it's going to be an absolute blast. I love leagues. I've played 4 out of the 5 old school leagues, and I cannot wait to play the RuneScape 3 league. I will see you all next time.